I swear, on Friday, I'll be getting on Friday. I gotta move my mic around because it's picking up some wavery shit. On Friday, I should have it all figured out, and we'll have a title screen. And so when I'm a few minutes late, we'll have like the delay. Like, I need like elevator music though, you know, so that like while you're waiting for the lobby to open or whatever.
Yeah, like some jazzy Christmas music.
Indeed, I got some musical friends. I'll be like, I should solicit them for any. My buddy, like my one buddy who I used to be in tons of bands with. He just has made so much music over the years that he's just like got scraps here and there.
Yeah.
So often when I need music, I'm just like, hey Mike, you got another scrap for me? So
Mike, throw me another banger real quick.
well, the
Just
good thing
light it
about
up.
the good thing about that too is that uh, I mean like you don't have to worry about like royalties or like all this other shit or putting like copyrighted music up there and getting it
Yeah, that's
flagged or
important.
whatever. So it's like
Yeah.
because no one has heard this like weird random track that my buddy made several years ago. Oh, so what are we gonna be doing today? For the Wednesday chat. Well, as you can see already on the screen here, I gotta actually share it with Elron, who is joining me today. We might be joined
Hello.
by others if they want to later. But yeah, oh yeah, here's how we do it. And then my cat's yelling at us. So Ezra was on Alex Jones. Now here's the thing: it's happening so often now that so when it was starting to happen last year, at some point, it was like big news, like oh my god, Ezra Levant on Alex Jones. But this is like his fifth or sixth appearance now. It's becoming quite a regular thing. And now it doesn't bubble up to the point of news anymore. I think people just take for granted that Ezra and Alex Jones are like best friends now, which is whatever. But so I didn't even know that this had happened. I actually learned about it happening by listening to the Knowledge Fight podcast, which again, the Knowledge Fight podcast pretty much covers everything that Alex Jones does. The funny thing, and the thing that I appreciate as someone who solely covers Ezra Levant, is whenever Ezra Levant is on the show, and they mention it on Knowledge Fight, they never discuss Ezra Levant's sections, and they're usually just like, Ezra Levant's boring. I don't care if we're passing. uh, and so, like, I can sympathize with that. So that means that I can fill the void, and I will provide the knowledge for Ezra Levant. Although we're only gonna again, this is like a 40-minute clip. We're not gonna watch the whole thing. I think we'll watch the first 15 minutes ish of this,
All right.
and we'll watch some like other spliced in content because they're gonna say some pretty batshit crazy things. And I got some fun footage. Let me tell you, I am prepared with the most fun footage.
Fun footage. Sign me up.
uh, I did have to look for one more clip, but I can look for that when we get to it. But yeah, so they're going to be talking about a bunch of things, but it's mostly going to surround what happened on January 6th, right? So this was on the 14th. It's now the 20th, so it's almost a week old at this point. But they're going to talk about what happened on the 6th, and they're going to sort of like give their thoughts on that. And then they'll even like talk about like tech censorship and like Twitter banning, and they will
Mhm.
also add in shit about COVID lockdowns and whatnot. But that's
Of
going to
course.
be the surrounding issues that we're going to get to here. I am going to try to skip the first few minutes of it
Do
though,
you
because
think
they always do these like really super long buffer clips. This
Yeah.
would be the best way to put it. And it's like if we're just gonna see it eventually anyways, I don't care about the buffer.
Oh
Yeah,
my
here we
God, I
go.
love that desk.
Oh no, it's fucking incredible. I also love, I will say, his set is incredible. Like I love there's the giant screen that projects the the interview subject, and it's quite amazing. Let's see.
The resistance.video.
Oh, the resistance.video.
Well, Ezra Levant of Rebel Media, a great publisher, a great patriot in
Levant.
Canada, is about to join us to give his view on what he sees happening in the U.S.
There's also these
Clearly,
camera
Reichstag
angles.
2.0 is announcing, oh, it wasn't Trump caused it. It was secret military groups and the Capitol Police. They're involved. Arrest them all. And the FBI's called us and wants to come in to see if we ran the attack.
So, so what we've got so far is this is Reichstag 2.0.
All right.
That everyone in the police and military were in on it, and Alex has been contacted by the FBI. Now this is important, and we'll get to it a bit. This is the fun clip that's coming up, but you know, why would we think that the FBI would contact Alex? And that's because Alex participated in the Capitol thing, right? And more so than I think Alex wants to lead on, although it is kind of ridiculous. But the point is, oh man, I'm so glad to finally see the events unpacked for the most trustworthy name in news. It's all coded.
Love that. I can't get over the desk. Like, he's got all his papers there. He's got that binder open. It's like full of notes that, like, he doesn't. It looks like the same picture repeated too. The worst part.
Okay, well, which is what? Oh, he gets to it in a second, and it's actually kind of funny. Let's go.
Unbelievable. So that's all going on. That's all breaking. Roger Stone's wife beat up. She didn't want Roger to get mad 2 nights ago when a guy beat her up outside their place. She went ahead and told him she had to go to the hospital. She's in the hospital right now, emergency surgery. They beat his wife up. Just by their condo, no one around. She's walking the dog. Guy comes up, beats her up. Roger's like, yeah, some guy ran into my wife. She's in here sick, but she didn't want to make Roger mad, so she didn't tell him until today. And now Roger is insanely angry, and they're going to a safe house. That's what's going on.
What?
Look, so I didn't investigate this at all. If you want to get the information, go to Knowledge Fight. But here's the thing: is none of this happened to Roger Stone. Apparently, it had something to do with, like, his wife was walking a dog, and, like, their dog got in a confrontation with another dog, and his wife might have been bit or something. But it was definitely not his wife being assaulted by Antifa. They're definitely not going into hiding. None of that is true. And, like, the funny thing is, if anyone, like, listens to Alex Jones and InfoWars and all that shit, like, Alex Jones and Roger Stone are supposed to be friends, you know? So, like, why would you just make that shit up about your friend? I don't understand this. Oh. I know nothing makes my wife more angry than when I tell her when I've been attacked in public. She hates when I tell her that. Can you change the text color of Twitch chat when it shows up on your side? Yes, I mean, eventually, I want to learn... actually to make it like have like a gray box so it like stands in front of the image and then make it white. So my hope is hopefully by Friday what I'll do is I'll have the title image, maybe we'll have some intro music, we'll have a wait screen, and then maybe I'll also have the text box fixed. I agree that it has
ambitious.
Listen, the thing is, it's probably not going to take me a long time to have
it's not, is it? It's not.
But it literally is like, you know, I get busy with the kids or something else comes up, and then it's like, fuck, I got like 2 hours left before I stream. So I got nothing to do tomorrow really other than the kids. So I'm not streaming, I'm not doing anything else. So my goal is to accomplish that for tomorrow. That's my tomorrow goals.
Other than keeping little humans alive, I've got nothing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get some breaks with them, but you know, it's also doing like extra research and doing my other tasks around the house and whatnot. Intro music for Monster Fever, please. Maybe. Well, we were talking. My friend Mike, who does Monster Fever, I was hopefully going to get beats or something from him. He's very generous with lending me his beats. Let's see where. Oh no, it's loading.
In this fascist, communist, whatever you want to call it, takeover.
Fascist,
the stuff
communist
you saw
takeover.
in Russia and Nazi Germany and China and Venezuela and Cuba, that can happen here.
All those countries
and
are
it is
connected.
happening here. But look at these headlines.
See, this is what we're getting
Bradford
at.
police investigate billboard showing Justin Trudeau in a Nazi uniform. Oh, you can't do that.
He's just reading the headlines. And it's clear. Like, listen, I'm someone who, well, you probably relate to this, being in academia. Like, I have tons of, like, journals printed off, stapled, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, you can tell when I've read something. It's like, there's not even a fold up where the staple is.
Yeah.
Like, these have never been, like, read. And, like, there's one you're going to see, like, it's going to have, like, markings on it, but the markings are only around the headline. Watch this shit.
New normal. Chinese citizens have to scan a tracking app to re-enter
And I will say, this is from InfoWars, so he's reading his own headline.
their own homes.
That's amazing.
That is also
Amazon
from
selling
InfoWars.
anatomically correct children's dolls under the term full-size sex doll.
This is
the
also an
bottom falling out,
InfoWars
ladies and
headline.
gentlemen. Unity. Don Lemon says if you vote for Trump, you're the Klan, the Nazis, and the rioters. And you know what we do with Nazis, unless you're George Soros.
See?
So
This
there it
one's
is.
CNN.
Investigators pursuing signs U.S. Capitol riot was planned. They go on to say, working with the Capitol Police. Oh, the deputy was told to stand down. He committed suicide. We won't know who ordered that now.
But, like, it's just the fact that he has all this shit laid out there.
This is
And-
incredible.
He just picks it up and reads the fucking headlines. I love the printed off
Like-
headlines so much.
They're the headlines he wrote, though.
Yeah. Most of them. I mean, one was CNN, the other was Toronto Star. And that Toronto Star one is pretty ridiculous. We talked about it on our most recent podcast episode, but there was this billboard in Hamilton, Ontario that said Trudeau for treason and had Trudeau dressed up as Hitler.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
No,
what a
it's-
baller move.
Well, the funny
You're
thing
just
is...
you're gonna go on your show, print off your news, and be like, look what the globalists did. What a fucking baller move.
And it's the fact of, like, I don't think his audience even fucking cares. Like, they're already in it, you know?
No, there's no way they give a shit. That's just me. Listen, game recognized game. I feel it. I'm self-cited. I get it. Game recognized game. You gotta get that H index up.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So Ezra Levant joins us, but he
I love that
showed me a
he
clip
never,
a month
like,
ago when he
it
was on
never
that. I'd
sounds like
forgotten
he
about this
pronounces
years
his
ago.
name right, ever. It's like he slurs, he wants to shove,
that
like, an
down.
extra R.
So Ezra Levant joins us.
It's like, Ezra Levant. Every fucking time.
But he showed me a clip a month ago when he was on that I'd forgotten about from a few years ago with the Canadian Prime Minister and a group of women saying, I admire, in a canned question, communism. And not just any communism, Chinese communism that has the world record of killing people, over 100 million folks in their own numbers. And then I thought we showed Trudeau a few months ago with his great reset comment, just to kind of remind people of this stuff. Here it is.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
I love, like, whenever they play this, you can tell that it cuts off so abruptly right there. Every single time. And his thing is, like, I don't like Trudeau. I actually think that this was a stupid thing for Trudeau to have said. But, like, they make it out like he's secretly working with the like the Chinese Communist government, right? The Tri-Coms, you know. But his whole point here, like, if you go on, I'm not going to find the extra clip. We've played it on our podcast, like, several times. But he basically goes on to be like, you know, like, I don't actually want a dictatorship, though. I think, like, it's good. It would be, his whole point is, like, it would be nice that if he could just be like, green economy now, is kind of what he's saying. And he's realizing that there's, like, there's impediments to this. Now, here's the thing is, I think, given that this was before he held government, And now that he has like held government for a long time, he probably could have done a lot of the shit that he thinks that he can't do, but he bought a pipeline and he's a piece of shit. So fuck Trudeau.
Yeah.
Well, the point is
very quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, very quickly. But Piano in the chat brought this up, and I wanted to ask the same thing. 100 billion? 100? China killed 100 billion people? What?
I didn't even catch that. Jesus, let's go back.
Billion of their own people.
Trudeau a few months ago with his great reset comment, just to kind of, and not just any communism, Chinese communism that has the world record of killing people, over 100 million folks in their own numbers. And I thought we showed Trudeau a few months ago with his great reset comment, just to kind of remind people of this stuff. Here it is.
100 billion people.
Of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn
the
their economy around
on a dime. I've heard that so many times now.
Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
And you do that by shutting down the real economy and letting the big banks and big tech double their money, and then doubling and tripling world poverty. And you do that by calling it the Great Reset. This is pure fascism, pure corporate takeover. Ezra Levant, you're in Canada. You're a patriot, and what happens here affects you. What do you make of, I'll give you the floor the rest of the segment, 7 minutes. What happened?
So the thing about the reset, that clip about the reset thing, it's like Trudeau really doesn't say anything there. You know? It's like it's in the middle of a pandemic and you're just trying to the economy's hurting right now, so he says we're going to build back better. What the fuck does that mean? Like if anything, it's like political speak, which is fine. And like he's saying we have the opportunity now to reset everything and make something better, which again sounds nice. It's completely vacuous and meaningless, but it's amazing,
right?
That they run with that. Like what Trudeau is saying, he's gonna reset everything and make communism. Hey, as someone far to the left, I'm cool. I wish. I wish that's what Trudeau's secret plan is, but believe me, that's not what Trudeau's secret plan is.
At the Capitol, what's your view? What's coming next? Ezra Levant of Rebel Media.
He never gets it right.
Well, look, we all know the phrase fake news, and you can battle fake news on a daily basis. But what happens when the news cements, when that cement hardens, and it becomes history? You can't even unargue or dislodge it. And no matter what is found out in the days and weeks ahead about the individual identities of the people who smashed the window, the people who went to the Capitol building before Trump's speech finished, that's all interesting, but the cement has hardened, the concrete has hardened, and whether or not there are facts that come out later, the media narrative, the political narrative is set.
So what he's trying to say here, and it's going to get worse from here out, but the idea is even if it turns out that these people were all right-wingers, his point is if information comes out later, we're already convinced that they're right-wingers and they're going to use it to purge us or whatever. And now we're going to get imagery of the Reichstag, because of course we are.
And so we're operating.
Going to it.
I mean, some of the Democrats are
Jesus
trying to
Christ.
analogize what happened on Capitol Hill in 9/11. Of course, there's no analogy, but they will use it as the pretext to take away our civil liberties. The censoring of a sitting president by Silicon Valley titans is shocking, but let me give you some news from outside America, because America is normally the key battlefield, the front line on free speech. You've got your First Amendment, you've got people who love that spirit of 76.
So what? I just want to pause it here because we're going to show this now. So this is, there will be further points as we go where they'll bring up this possibility of it being Antifa or some other group that's responsible, that it wasn't the right wing that was responsible for what happened at the Capitol. And we already saw, like, that is definitely, like, Alex's line on this, right?
Yeah.
This is a Reichstag, you know? And I guess to fill people in case you're unaware of history, what happened was the Reichstag caught fire, and Hitler then used that to consolidate power by blaming the fire on the opposition, his opposition from the left, and therefore consolidated power on the right. If I got that is like a bastardization, but that is essentially what happened. Now, there is historical question as to whether or not the Nazis themselves set the fire and then used it. And this is like the quintessential, what they call the false flag, right? So this is Ezra's point about false flags. It always comes back to the Reichstag, right? Which is the idea that the Nazis intentionally set the fire, and then they used that to frame the leftists to consolidate power. He blamed it on the communists specifically, yes. And so the thing is, it is possible that it was somebody who set the fire that was not. So there's many ways that this actually could have played out, which is that someone unrelated to the left set the fire, and even though the Nazis didn't start it themselves, they used it as an opportunity to blame the leftists. Or someone from the Communist Party did set it, and again, they still used it to consolidate power, right? And I'm not going to get into like who's... In some ways, it doesn't matter, because that part of history is long gone. You know, either way, it was used as an opportunity to consolidate power. But the narrative that they're spinning is that somehow the Democrats operated a false flag here to then consolidate power with the big tech companies to then silence right-wingers online. I don't know. Like, I get, like, that's kind of what they're saying. So the only evidence that I've ever seen about this, what happened at the Capitol was some sort of Antifa false flag, was this person named John Sullivan. And I think they might get into it here, maybe not, I can't remember. But John Sullivan is this person who was around things like Black Lives Matter, but there's posts from different orgs distancing themselves from him, saying that he's got connections to the right wing and he's a dangerous person. And this was long since before what happened at the Capitol happened, right? But of course, because John Sullivan has in the past identified with Black Lives Matter, and I think has mentioned Antifa in a few posts, they're like, evidence! This is an Antifa insider, right? Now, the interesting thing is, John Sullivan, this Antifa insider, he was one of the people to initially film Ashley Babbitt? I can't remember. The person who got shot and killed on the Capitol. So this John Sullivan, this Antifa insider, was one of the first people to initially film it. And during the day of, this InfoWars reporter bumped into John Sullivan, and they had a chat about the fact that John Sullivan just filmed what happened, and they exchanged. He's like, hi, I'm with InfoWars, and this and that. So right there, we know that InfoWars was inside the Capitol. And not only... So InfoWars was inside the Capitol, and we know that through this exchange with John Sullivan, and now it kind of makes a little bit more sense why Alex Jones says he's being investigated by the FBI at the beginning of this, right? But it's worse than that. So I wanted to show a really amazing clip. And I know you've already seen it, Elron, because I couldn't contain how amazing this was.
Huh.
But and I am still baffled by the fact that this is currently still up on the InfoWars channel. Here, let me exit this. I'll reshare. So this is still up. You can go to band.video and you can find the raw footage of Sam, who is an InfoWars employee, as Sam here filmed what happened at the Capitol. I'm just gonna make sure. Let me exit out of this. I don't want it. I was watching it at a faster speed earlier, and I want to make sure that it's not okay. All right, I hope you're prepared. I hope the audience is prepared too. This is going to be amazing. So this is Sam from InfoWars at the Capitol, January 6th. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
We got SWAT gear over there. Everybody keep the line moving. All right. It's your boy Sam with Infowars.com. Support the war. Infowarsstore.com. We got sales to go. We got sales for days. Please, it's because of your support that we're able to get into things like this and show you the real news that the media won't. That they will spin tomorrow. They're gonna spin it. But guess what? Guess what? We are in the Capitol, baby! Yeah! All right, so here we are.
God.
We're in the Capitol, baby! Does that sound like a journalist entering the building? We're at war. Go to the InfoWars store. We're in the Capitol, baby.
Incredible.
So, you might wonder, why is the FBI investigating Alex Jones? This is why the FBI is investigating Alex Jones. Oh my God. When I heard that, I almost crap myself. It's too good. It's almost too good to be true. And the fact that they've left it up. You would think if they had any sense of decency that they'd realize, oops, we made an oopsie. Maybe we should take this down. Especially because we talk about them being sort of good with the narrative and trying to sidestep it. So for those who probably follow along a lot, we've talked a ton of times about Ezra and how Ezra has distanced himself from what happened on the 6th and tries to downplay the violence. And Kian was there taking selfies with people in the crowd. I had that tweet screen capped because it was oh, I found a super fan in the crowd and we took a selfie in the middle of the tear gas or whatever. So it's Ezra was there too with people on the ground filming this thing, but he's released none of the footage because he wants to distance himself from it. And this whole past week hasn't talked about it at all, right? He's trying to avoid it at all costs here, right? And even Alex Jones, day of, to Alex Jones's quasi credit, when people started storming the Capitol, he was trying to direct them to the place where they were actually designated allowed to protest, but the people ignored him and kept going. So even in the moment, Alex Jones knew better. That was part of the footage I wanted to find at the beginning here. Let's see if I can find it. Alex Jones, Capitol, January 6th. I don't know if we're going to be able to find it. I don't know. You'll just have to take my word for it. But as the storming of the Capitol was happening, Alex Jones got on his megaphone and was trying to divert people away from the Capitol. But his staff, because here's the thing. Alex Jones is a savvy person, right? So in his mind, he's we have to distance ourselves from us. This is going to look bad kind of thing, right? So he's thinking in terms of PR. But some of his staff, the younger, whoever this Sam person is clearly pro what these people are doing. You know? The mess, Alex Jones's I guess PR justifications are not getting through to the rest of his staff, anyways. But it's amazing for them to sit here and compare this to a Reichstag when you had Sam is our boy. We know Sam. We're in the Capitol, baby. and then for them to have the fucking audacity to say that this is some Reichstag fire, that it was some Antifa inside job to consolidate shit with big tech, when it's it was your boy. It was your boy Sam. He was in the fucking building.
It was your boy Sam.
Holy shit. That and like we don't have to get into any of the other detail. Like we know Baked Alaska was there, and we know Baked Alaska isn't some fucking plant. He's been at like Charlottesville and all this other shit, you know. And the same with the QAnon shaman person. Like these are people we knew prior to this, so it's like, unless they're like running some like super deep con, none of this makes sense. I think I'm resharing the video with you again, but
yeah, I got it.
If it's gonna play.
But interestingly, Alex, and this is a surprise to me, that some of the people fighting back are foreigners. Let me give you an example. Angela Merkel, who's rather left-wing and globalist.
Look at this image, Jesus
She
Christ.
has said she is not comfortable with Silicon Valley being able to censor her. Uganda, when Twitter and Facebook started censoring accounts in their political elections,
they just shut it down.
They banned, yeah. And think about it. You have other leaders around the world who have been victims of censorship. Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil, Facebook, which owns WhatsApp, shut down
like
a
all
lot
these
of his
conservatives don't want to be kicked off social media.
In India, Narendra Modi, who was a key ally of Donald Trump, he is in an actual war, a low-intensity conflict with the Chinese army high in the Himalayas. So they have banned TikTok and dozens of other Chinese apps. How hard would it be for India to ban Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google? I mean, it would be hard, but they were doing it. They've done it.
By the way, Ezra, let me interrupt you. That's why I got you on, because you're so smart. I was brainstorming yesterday, and I said to my crew, I said, we've got to get governments to realize that big tech's taking over, and it's a threat to their power as a separation of powers. And I used India, I used Merkel, I used even Macron as an example. I used the Mexican president. As you just said, that's what we should be hammering, is they finally get it. The new government is these robber barons, and they have no checks and balances. So as much as I want government controlled, well, the libertarians are wrong. Big tech is now the ultimate government that knows everything we do and is above the law.
Ezra, it's your 7 minutes, but I'm just going to interrupt and say what you said better. Brilliant.
But big tech is the new big government, apparently.
That's just true.
I all this like equating social media to government, like it's so stupid. I get so frustrated even like with certain people on the left, which is like with the whole discussion about whether or not we should have or should not have banned Trump off Twitter or whatever. In part because there's an extent to which we're never, I mean, like, we're not currently at this state where we have enough people on, like, a co-op social media that's democratically run, so that, like, the terms of service are decided by, like, a panel of people that are democratically chosen. Like, you know, like, there could be better social medias at some point, and that's fine. But it's like right now, Twitter is the one that everyone uses. But just because it's like the one thing that everyone uses, and that's why everyone's there. Like, it just seems weird to then say that therefore we're living in some sort of like authoritarian thing, because it's like, yes, let's break up these monopolies. Let's get rid of tech monopolies. Let's have better ways of doing this. But then it's like at the same time, like, yes, fucking kick Trump off. I don't care. You know. And of course, like, they're thinking that what happened on January 6th was a false flag equivalent to the Reichstag, all set up to kick them off of social media. And of course, that's what they're going to be talking about for like ever now. It's like how the, I mean, they've been talking about it forever during even fucking Donald Trump's whole presidency, was that they're, big tech's going to censor them, right?
Of course.
Big fucking tech.
Well, and the thing is, when your government censors you, of course, there are some deep state, undercover style exercises of power.
This is an
But for
amazing
example, a dozen years ago, Alex, I was prosecuted in Canada for violating the Human Rights Act when I published the Danish cartoons of Mohammed. That was an act of government censorship. I hated it, but at least there was a process. There was, a complaint. I had a chance to respond. There were some rules. There was some transparency. There was an appeal if I lost. So at least when you're fighting government censorship, you can see who's coming for you. But when you're suddenly turned off and unpersoned by Facebook, YouTube, Google, Amazon, any of these, you don't even know who did it. You don't know what the appeal is. There is no appeal. They could have any rhyme or reason. So although I hate censorship of all species, I think the deadliest censorship is that which is outsourced, contracted out from governments to the tech oligarchs. And the funny thing is...
So, did you follow that?
No. Not fucking wink.
So what he's saying is when he did his Danish cartoons thing, right? So he printed these Danish cartoons in his Western Standard magazine. Somebody filed a human rights complaint against him, citing it was Islamophobia. And so there's a human rights tribunal system, which he fought against. He wrote a book. We've covered a bunch of this on our podcast. He keeps fighting against these human rights tribunals across Canada. And part of that is because, like, unlike America, we have hate speech laws and, like, other things. Even though the human rights tribunals themselves are a quasi-judicial system, so, like, I don't know if there's an equivalent process in America, but the reason why they were set up is because a lot of these complaints, like, say, if a landlord discriminates against you because you're trans, for example, it could cost you a lot of money to try to fight something like that. So the human rights tribunals were set up to basically absorb those costs. And the process was supposed to be less punitive and more restorative. So the idea was you would meet in the room and you would share, like, facts and evidence kind of thing from both sides. And then the person who adjudicates basically this tribunal will decide some sort of, like, remedy to the situation, given the facts and evidence. And of course, you could appeal this process to the actual legal system afterwards, which is why it's a quasi-judicial system, right? Mm-hmm. But the point is like, Ezra is, like, dead set against this whole process. But what he's saying here is he's like, that system is better because when you go through that system, there's rules in place that you can follow and sort of, like, argue with, right?
Yeah.
And then he says, but that's not the case when it comes to big tech. Now, he doesn't say big tech. He calls them, like, the tech oligarchs or whatever. And he actually says that what happens, this is government outsourcing free speech or something like this, or outsourcing censorship to these companies. Now, that doesn't make sense at all because, again, all the law says that these companies are allowed to have their own sort of, like, they can decide who gets to use their platform, right? So as long as they're not, like, being prejudiced against a special class, right? So they can't say black people can't use Twitter, you know? But they can say that if you're going to harass people, we'll kick you off our platform. And they're well within their right to do that. There's nothing in the law that says that Twitter can't do that. And it's not censorship. Like, so when you're saying, like, somehow the government is outsourcing it, it's not censorship because it's just like McDonald's has the right to kick you from their store if you're harassing people within their establishment, right?
Right.
Now, what he's saying is, like, kind of interesting because he's a libertarian-esque type figure who loves companies, especially when it comes to oil businesses, and he thinks regulations are bad. That's been his whole thing throughout his whole fucking career. Regulations are bad. Regulations are bad. Well, what is he proposing here? If governments are better because governments have rules and regulations that you can understand and follow, but it's bad for these big tech companies to kick you off your platform because somehow their rules are opaque or hard to, like, grapple with, then what are you saying? Do we need to regulate these businesses? But of course, like, he walks right up to that line and then doesn't follow through with the argument, right? Because, like, where else is this argument supposed to go? Instead, he just, like, resorts to some sort of fear-mongering, like there's these big tech oligarchs and it's some huge conspiracy. When it's like, if you want to regulate the tech companies, just say you want to regulate the fucking tech companies. It's so annoying. And hypocritical because, like, I honestly don't think he actually wants to regulate big tech because he's pro-corporations, right?
Yeah.
What he wants instead is he wants to be allowed on Twitter to say whatever the fuck he wants. That's all this is. He wants to be able to use the N-word and not be, like, yelled at for it. Or the equivalent therein, you know.
Well, obviously I prefer him not to use the N-word or its equivalent on Twitter. Thank you.
Right. And you know, I'm pretty happy with Alex Jones not being on Twitter. And it would be nice if Ezra was gone too.
Well, you know, we just had an inauguration, new president. Maybe Silicon Valley will shine down on us. Get your wish.
Come on. I mean, after all they went through for their Reichstag 2.0, the least they could do is kick Ezra.
The least they could do is ban Ezra on Twitter.
Oh my God.
Powerful people around the world, Merkel, Modi, AMLO in Mexico, good example, Bolsonaro. These are serious, powerful people who say, you know what?
Viano, do you know?
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris might love this because they're personal friends.
I'm not very familiar
with Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg.
What's happening in Mexico?
But Bolsonaro and those other, they're not personal friends with them, and they see the threat, and they don't see any of the payoff like Biden and Harris have. So why wouldn't they kick them out? And ironically, that unexpected consequence of foreign countries saying, yeah, we're not part of your little club in Silicon Valley. We showed we could ban Chinese TikTok. So if we can do that, why can't we ban Twitter? I mean, China bans Twitter. China bans Facebook. Russia has its own Facebook.
Well, that's where I was going in closing as we go to break. When Putin, secretly banned.
I love their fucking stock footage. Yeah, I asked about AMLO. Yeah. Because Ezra has been, I guess AMLO must have come out against banning Trump off Twitter. And of course, because he's to the left of Mexican politics, Ezra keeps bringing him up like, see, it's even the lefties, you know, even though everyone else on the list that he just read are all conservatives to a certain degree. Now, granted, I think Merkel is a lot more closer to the center than Bolsonaro or Modi, but yeah.
Bans people, which we know he does, that's going on. It's the end of the world. But then when Facebook, Twitter, and Google do it like 10 times worse, like, oh, this is a good thing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and not just that. What we're seeing in the name of the pandemic are police actions that a year ago, if they were happening in Russia, Venezuela, Iran, China, North Korea, we would be rightfully apoplectic.
Like this is when I get to the COVID
and the crisis
lockdown
and
shit,
the
right?
perpetual emergency of the pandemic has emboldened bully police. Not all police. I love many law-abiding police.
Sure, the system's trying to promote bad policing. Authoritarianism is being pushed as good.
So
the system is promoting bad policing?
Huh. We should abolish the police. Or at the very least, defund them.
Oh. It's like to stew in that for a few seconds of just like, obviously they think it's, the system to them represents something else entirely, right? But the point is, they're the ones who are dead set against considering the idea of systemic racism. To them, that's like a non-starter. Of course, there's no such thing as systemic racism. Law is colorblind. It's all like fine, right? And yet, for some reason, there's something corrupt with the system of policing as it currently is that has made them authoritarian. Because they're attacking right-wing people. When they attack left-wing people, that's right and just.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, there isn't much to go on. It's just, it's fucking embarrassing is what it is, but that's what they do.
You're combining police state actions.
I love when he like readjusts himself and then his like eyes like super focused.
We have seen the diminution of freedom more in the last 12 months than we have at any time since the Second World War.
Ezra, stay there. Freedom. You're on fire. You're always on fire. But you're really on fire today, like Godzilla attacking Tokyo. We're going to come back and get into what you think's coming next. Are there false flags this weekend coming, the 20th? What can Trump do with 6 days left? I'm Alex Jones. We're talking to Ezra Levant of the Rebel Media. Stay with us.
Did you hear that? He's like Godzilla attacking Tokyo.
Racism. Yeah. Wild racism.
Rebelnews.com is the website. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Ezra Levant is
the last little section
riding shotgun with us. So he's got a lot of points to make, hundreds of them. Smart guy. But I wanted to ask him.
He's a smart guy.
I know you don't like to speculate, but watching what happened 8 days ago, watching the response, them saying, oh, Trump caused it, but now they know it caused before Trump even spoke. Oh, now it's a secret group with the Capitol Police. Oh, there's a big terror conspiracy. Well, I was there when it started 30 minutes in. It looked like military, like professional military, not just rank and file regular military, but the choicer cuts were actually going in and stirring it up and doing things. And then it looked like a giant false flag to me. And then now they tell us, oh, the Patriots are going to blow everything up this weekend, and we got to have martial law. What is your view on what's really going on here?
So just to frame that, you notice how there was at the beginning, it was a little bit more vague. It was just Reichstag 2.0. But now he's pretty clear. Like, some of these elephants were clearly not the Patriots, and it looked like a false flag to me. What are your thoughts? So now it's a little less ambiguous.
Look, the left specializes in agents provocateurs. They just do. That's a tactic of the left. It's a tactic of Antifa. You could tell who the professional rioters are because they engage in the black bloc tactic. Black bloc refers to a style, a tactic of dressing in black so you have no distinguishing clothing, having your face covered so you can't be ID'd. We saw some of that in the early Black Lives Matter riots, people dressed in black, smashing windows to get the party started. And I think that the left specializes in these street gang style.
And by the way, there's memes of this. I should have brought it up. I don't know if they can find it, but it shows like the people breaking in are all wearing black, and down below everybody's wearing all these bright colors.
So notice Ezra. Sorry, you can say it.
No, just memes. Just amazing.
Yeah. So Ezra was sort of like not addressing to the extent to which there actually was Antifa people there, but you could tell Alex took what he said and then applied it to clearly Antifa was there because you had the black people up front who were apparently not black people dressed in black were up front smashing the windows. And there's a thing to this where it's like, obviously not everyone in the crowd at the Capitol is equal. Like the more boogaloo types or militia types are going to come differently prepared than, say, your grandma from Florida who's dressed entirely in an American flag. So so there's a sense in which what Alex is saying here, even though he got it from a meme, is probably true. Even when you look at the image, the people who are at the door smashing on the door were usually the people in the military fatigues and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But then it was the people, and then the people out back were the people dressed in their, American flag get-ups. And so it's that could be true because of the fact that the military people, they're the ones who came prepared to get down. It's likely that the other people came not necessarily prepared to get down, but just went with it once it started happening. But those people who came prepared to get down, of course, they're going to be the ones dressed in black or hiding their identity. And even then, even some of the people who dressed in black and tried to hide their identity, like the dude with the zip ties, they still forgot to change their shirts and shit like that and still got caught. So so there's an extent to which it's not helping them anyways. But if you're going to do something where you want to hide your identity, what Antifa does in Black Bloc really helps. So it would not surprise me that right-wing militia types would adopt some of those characteristics to try not to get caught,
It's not even it's being framed as some amazing tactic, but what is it? Wear a mask, don't wear signifiers, dress in a color that they're not going to pick you up on. Oh my God, this is grand military strategy right here. I would have thought that by playing fucking Call of Duty for more than 2 hours.
But it's it's the stupidity of what they're saying too, because even Ezra, his whole point is you'll never see conservatives being violent or spraying graffiti, right? That's been his line since this happened. And it's it's just he's saying categorically the right does not do that. Where here they're saying, look, these tactics are traditionally used by the left, therefore only leftists use it, right? Or if you see people using it, they're definitely going to be leftists. It can't possibly be right-wing people, or at least that's Alex's takeaway right now.
Well, the other thing to me is how do you put violence and graffiti? I understand it's those are two things that happened at the Capitol riot, but how do you put those two things together? Conservatives don't do violence; they don't do graffiti. How is graffiti worse than violence at the Capitol? I'm sorry, I really am not following. But then again, it's still it is completely separate from the reality in which we live, right? Like we know that right-wing violence is perpetrated more than left-wing violence. Like we've known that for years. Like again, I think it's every year since 2000, 2002 that's been the case in the US. Like every FBI report shows that right-wing terrorism is significantly higher than left-wing or non-ideological terrorism. Like it's frustrating that you still have people going like, no, 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 the right never does violence. I mean, what, for 4 years now? We've had Trump and like all right-wing domestic terror events have just been like swept under the lugs. Church shootings, school shootings, all this shit.
But this is why they work so hard to conflate communism with fascism. I mean, they've done it like how many times in this clip alone in the past? Like we're 11 minutes into this, 12 minutes into this, and they've done that several times. Communist, fascist, takeover of the right. Like they've just linked the two such that they can now say that if it's fascist violence, it's left-wing violence.
You can just say all sorts of shit. They can say 100 billion people were killed by China. Who knows?
But I think the graffiti thing is interesting because I feel like what they're doing is if you just say that right-wing people don't do violence, I think that'll like, I don't know, people, it would be easier for people to go, nah. But then it's like if you say, and graffiti, it's like, I think people would go, yeah, right-wing people don't graffiti.
Well, we know which people do the graffiti, don't we?
Yeah.
We know cool which ones are placing their tags underneath the trains. We're not going to say it, but it's those people that do the graffiti.
Yes. Oh, I mean, there's the racial element to it, of course.
Oh, whoa. I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say it was a racial thing, man. I'm just saying we know which people do graffiti.
But I do think it's funny, too, because, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, the right wing, I wouldn't necessarily call it graffiti if we're talking about an art form, but the right wing definitely, like, sprays swastikas on things all the fucking time.
Yes,
if we're being real. And, I think we had our own right-wing people do some nasty shit after the firing of Don Cherry, spray painting a bunch of shit, too, so.
Right, and, I mean, I don't know what would have caused people to think they could enter into the Capitol building, face uncovered, smile for photos, and not be detected in a moment with facial recognition technology. The number of security cameras there. I think there is a mob mentality that takes over, the madness of crowds. People morally and emotionally become invisible. They blend in. And you
sure,
see
mob psychology, but clearly Antifa and other groups help breach it, help start it.
So you can see there's like a tension here, right? Ezra clearly does not want to admit. Because Ezra is at least, I feel like Ezra is cleverer than Alex Jones, right? So Ezra's looking at this going, these people stormed into this thing with fucking no mask on. And are clearly being like scanned and picked up. And so he's going, well, yes. You know, so clearly people, it was mob mentality, all this kind of stuff. Like, he's realizing you have to go to this angle. And you can tell Alex Jones really wants them to push the narrative. Like, yes, okay, mob mentality. But there was definitely Antifa elements within it.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't been following that closely. But like I say, the history has been cemented a million times over. That's the whole purpose of the
this is his strategy
the facts
of like
as they were alleged by the left,
painting over this.
And what you're talking about, Alex, is people coming up and saying, well, what about this and what about that? And I see, for example, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas caught on tape someone engaging in massive.
So this is the John Sullivan person who people claim is a Black Lives Matter activist, even though that's not the case. And he was there. Yeah. Whether it's actually counterintelligence, like he there's something up with this person. I mean, he seemed very excited about the fact that he witnessed a shooting and got it on camera, which tells me that if anything, he seems like someone who's an opportunist, who is there to get footage, regardless of what side he was on. You were gonna say something, though?
Oh, it's just like James O'Keefe, man, that name takes me back.
Yes, I mean, so here's what Ezra's whole point is he's not going to take a firm commitment. He's going to say is even if evidence comes up later that Antifa was 100% behind some of this, that the narrative has already been cemented. So he can like play this game already, being like, see, they're still bad because even though not all the evidence is in, even though like the evidence is in, like, we have these people's faces, we know who they were. He's gonna play this like distancing game where he's not gonna like fully commit to it, but he's gonna kind of commit to it.
Right. Yeah.
Fraud of the election, and they were arrested and they're being prosecuted.
The
So
Reichstag
that's
fire
factual
again.
proof, but it's
In Texas,
after the horse.
getting hundreds to vote illegally, no coverage of it. Total proof of election
Well, that's
fraud.
So now, that's the other thing I love. Ezra recently has been trying to walk back his voter fraud claims because he got flagged by YouTube.
Yeah, I bet he did.
And I saw today that not only has he been flagged by YouTube, Dominion Voting Systems has a cease and desist against him. And so now we got fucking Alex, really jumping on the whole voter fraud shit and like putting Ezra on the spot, even though I don't think it was known at this point that Ezra had received the cease and desist about this stuff. But I shared, if anyone wants to go back and see here, actually I should pull up the video. We already did a stream on this where they had Kian Bexty go to a building in Toronto where apparently Dominions had an office, right? And it was clear in that video that they were making voter fraud claims, that somehow because Dominions was housed in the same building as the Tides Foundation, even though I think their existence in the building did not overlap, I think was the conclusion we came to. I can't remember. You'll have to go back and watch the thing. But the point is, we covered this video where they about this stupid building. So this was the video title. It was Stream 9, Dominion Voting Systems, George Soros and the Non-Existent Election Fraud. So they claim because the Tides Foundation and because Dominion Voting System were in the same building in Toronto, that therefore there was some sort of like manipulation going on, and that the voter fraud in America was the result of some George Soros plot, right? And we watched that. And so now for Ezra to be like, oh, we never made voting fraud claims. That never happened. And it's like, you you produced several videos on your show about this.
What was the news site that like had posted some stuff about Dominion, and then Dominion is like, okay, we're gonna sue you now. And they're like, our bad, we didn't mean to, sorry.
So there were several.
Like I know that was.
It was OAN and Newsmax and Fox News as well. But I know Fox and one of the other two actually like released sort of like quasi apology statements, or at least brought on someone from Dominion to like praise Dominion and like. But I think one of them, if I'm not mistaken, one of the companies is still holding out, and I think it's Newsmax. I could be wrong.
It might be. Yeah, because I remember on Twitter, like, they released, like, their little apology thing. It's like, we did not intend to do this. We are very sorry and apologetic. We never should have done this. It's like, yeah, you guys, you can't just go around saying a company committed election fraud. You can't go around saying they committed treason. They're not going to let you get away with that.
I also can't remember, because, like, they were slandering another company, too, which was Smartmatic. I think that was the company that they were trying to connect to Venezuela, saying that somehow Hugo Chavez was involved or whatever. And so like, I can't remember if the apologies were from Smartmatic or Dominion or both. You know, it could have been both companies were being like, hey, you tried to destroy our companies with fraudulent claims. Apologize, you know.
I mean, they're suing Sidney Powell for $1.3 billion.
Of course they
like. No wonder, like, Ezra might be lawsuit happy. He's not dumb.
Yeah, they're even going after the woman who was drunk, that Rudy Giuliani
Oh, really?
brought in. Yeah. Because she was
God.
like, I saw them, and they were clearly, like, removing the machines and, like, stuff like that. Yeah.
It was American Thinker. American Thinker had to apologize to them. Oh my God. Oh, and Mike Lindell might be getting sued. The My Pillow CEO.
Well, the My Pillow guy's having a downfall. He got kicked out of Bed Bath & Beyond. He's not allowed to sell his pillows at Bed Bath & Beyond anymore.
You know, I gotta tell you, in the pillow world, that's a real black mark, man. You can't sell your pillow at Bed Bath & Beyond. Where are you gonna sell it? You know, Kitchen Works? Can't sell it at Kitchen Works. Pillows aren't for kitchens, man.
That's like when we talk about the grift of all this shit. Like, the fact that at some of these Stop the Steal rallies, Mike Lindell was there and was promoting his pillows at these rallies. And
yeah,
well, he created a promotional code, which was QAnon.
Oh my God.
So that people at the rallies could like get cheaper pillows by typing in QAnon for attending the rally. Jesus Christ. Let's see more of this. So let's see, where did we get from this? Oh yeah. So now Ezra mentioned the possibility of voting fraud, and then Alex Jones just dived in. Election fraud's real. Let's see how Ezra reacts.
That's the thing, is it's after the cement had hardened.
Yeah.
You know, cement is soft for a while, but every minute that passes, it gets hardened. And then if you're going to try and jackhammer it in months, I mean, that's the trouble, is whatever proof there was. I mean, our friend Joel Pollack of Breitbart.com says the main way the election was rigged was not through illegal action, but through legal action by change.
So I love this. It is true, and I will say, so when Joel Pollack was on Ezra's show, Joel Pollack did have this position that what happened was the Democratic Party somehow won the election through legal means by, well, even saying that is weird, but basically, so for example, there was a law in Georgia that the Democrats got removed that allowed people, if their ballot was spoiled, to like recast it or something like this. And most states allow this to happen, but in Georgia, they worked out an agreement given the voter fraud that occurred from the Republican side, because Brian Kemp, who oversaw his own election, did a bunch of shenanigans to beat out Stacey Abrams, which was a huge, big thing if you remember 2 years ago. But people apparently have amnesia. But there was voter fraud on the Republican side in Georgia, or at least elements of it that made it the election very shady. And so some of the changes that were implemented were in the Democrats' favor, but that's because the Republicans were already doing some shady shit, and the Republicans realized they were going to lose these lawsuits, and they settled, right? Yeah. So then Joel Pollack goes that settlement was unconstitutional. Now it's not being challenged because the Republicans settled. Like there's no dispute of it. Like no one's bringing a case to the Supreme Court on this, and even if they were, it would probably lose. But Joel Pollack gets to make this claim that it was unconstitutional, so that even though it was done through legal means, so it's like the Democrats used the legal structure to get the election result they wanted. Joel Pollack still think that it's like rigged or fraudulent because really it was unconstitutional, and that if you let the courts do their thing, eventually it would show that this whole election was sort of like set up improperly. But even then, we know that's not the case because the Republicans kept losing and losing and losing their court cases constantly. So he wants to sort of like, so again, he's not going to answer the question, Ezra here. He's not going to answer the question because he's going to go to his whole cement analogy, which is his way of avoiding the question, right? So he'll say that it doesn't matter whether there was voter fraud or not. They've already decided there was. And so that's his way of saying that he could talk about voter fraud without actually saying he thinks that there's voter fraud. And then he goes to this to say the election was rigged because there was like legal things that passed. But it's like if the election was legal, then how was it rigged? You know, I get the same frustration when it comes to people complaining about the Democratic primary, where they're like, because Obama stepped in and sort of like told Buttigieg to like drop out and endorse Biden, that somehow this is rigging the Democratic primary. And it's like, That's within the rules of the Democratic primary. You might think that it sucks, but that's not rigging. That's not cheating. That's just like political maneuvering that sucks because it didn't work out in your favor. You know? And I agree. If you say that it sucks, I think it sucks too. But it's like to like harp on this whole idea that it's like cheating is just so stupid. And that's exactly what they're doing here. That even though it wasn't like, since it was legal, it's not technically cheating, but it's still rigging. It's like, no, it was a fucking legal election. Just get over it.
Well, Jody, you know, the thing about that, I think that you have to keep in mind is that, you know, the cement had hardened, right? The cement had hardened, and then you need a jackhammer to get in there. And look, we need to make sure there's room in the tent for new cement to cover up what we've uncovered so that it can harden.
You know, I knew you were going to do something like this, but I was like, I wasn't prepared for when the drop was coming. Oh, shit. We only got a few minutes left of this.
Changing the rules in the courts in the final months of the campaign, using the pandemic as the excuse to allow very rickety mail voting. So he wrote a book called Neither Fair Nor Free, and his point is it was taken through the courts, not through shenanigans. I mean, that's one point of view, but I find it fairly persuasive. Here's my point.
I totally agree with you that we've got all the other fraud going on, but the legislature is not passing laws to accept these fake ballots and to have it be these consent letters.
I don't want to look. I don't know the details of what's going on day by day in the Capitol building. And you know what? As a Canadian, I want to defer to you and my other American friends. I don't want to.
So he clearly has already received the cease and desist at this point, don't you think?
He's got it. Like it's probably sitting on his desk. And he's like,
Yeah. It's like I don't want to get into any of this. I'll just defer to you, Alex.
Whatever you say. Don't sue me for $1.3 billion, please. I can't even afford my mortgage.
Holy shit.
Weigh in and say, I've got
No, I understand. So, you've already given us your take. You say you're a Canadian, so you can't comment, but it's been really smart take. Then what do you think Trump should do with 6 days left? What do you expect Biden to do once he gets in? What's the other big stuff on your agenda?
Yeah, we can end it there. I don't really care what they think the Biden administration is going to do because it's all bullshit. But I just love that because you could just tell he does not want to answer that question. He is very concerned about what's coming down the pike for him. But they did do it. Like I'm not making it up. You could go watch our video again. Dominion Voting Systems, George Soros, and the Non-Existence of Election Fraud. We covered it, and Kian. I even shared this on our podcast episode about the that we titled "Cuckoo Kachoo," which is after the planned insurrection, and. Kian, it was like days after the election, was just like, it's fraudulent, they've rigged it. So, like, for Ezra to claim that he's never had election fraud claims on his channel is just bullshit. And we got them receipts. So you can check that out if you want to. And with that, we're going to be done. I'm going to make an appeal to anyone who's watching to... spread the news about our show. I'm 13 people away from following the Twitch channel before I can start making emotes and shit. And I would really like to make emotes. And I know it's eventually going to happen. But if you're watching and you're not a follower, please follow. And if you know anyone who might be sort of interested but isn't following yet, just try to convince people to follow. It might be fun. Go, just be like, yeah, just give them a follow. You don't have to watch it all the time. Just follow it. Because I want to make emotes so bad. we need like, David Menzies Pog and all that fun stuff. So please do that. And I will try my best to make a waiting screen by Friday's stream. I will also pitch, again, our wonderful Patreon account. I have to fix the Patreon page, too. There was a point...
Yeah.
I wanted to link the Patreon account to the Podbean account, and for whatever reason, I'm a boomer. I screwed something up and it's not working. And so I have to personally post the fucking episodes to it, and it's just frustrating. So I'm going to try to work it out, and if it's not going to work, I'll just have to post the back catalog. And so if you're a Patreon, all of a sudden you're going to get a post where it's like 20 episodes are uploaded all in one day or something.
Oh, joy. Let's go.
But yeah, I'm going to try to like hook that up and make it work. But, because geez, when does it say the last episode I uploaded? August. Jesus. Last episode I uploaded onto Patreon is August. I mean, all of the content that I release is open to the public anyways. There's nothing behind a paywall yet. So it really doesn't matter if the shit's on Patreon or not. But yes, but please donate to Patreon. It really helps with the background costs of the show. As you can tell, like, my mic's not perfect. I should hopefully at some point in the future, maybe in the next few months, be able to afford a new one. But we'll see if that's possible or not. But any costs that you can donate now will get me closer to that ability to purchase that microphone. And with that, I think we're done. Thank you, Tim, for hanging in there, and same with you, Vienno. Very nice. Very nice. And thanks to all our other viewers. I will post this to YouTube later. But let's see if there's anyone to raid. I think we got left flank vets. They seem fun. We can raid that. I've only watched their content a few times. They're lefties. They're also veterans. Veteran lefties, which is totally cool. So enjoy their content, and thanks for watching. See you later.
Bye.
Oops. Apparently that didn't work. Let's try that again. Oh, raid. Send viewers to another channel. Yes. Right. Well, why is it not letting me do this? Well, this is fun. Maybe these people are unrateable, which would be weird. Oh, there we go. There we go. I guess I had to capitalize all the little things there. I don't know why. I guess because someone could have a non-case sensitive name. Anyways, we're going. Enjoy the content. See you later.